All right. So, hi, happy Thursday, everybody. I am Space Tacos or Coach, or some people just call me Tacos. All of those are fine. And I'm going to start you off with a question. Have you ever seen the episode of Friends where Phoebe tries to teach Joey how to speak French? It's a hilarious story of he has an audition, he has lied about being fluent in French, and she's trying to get him through his lines and starts with a very simple line, "Hi, my name is Claude." And he just can't. He can't do it. He spits out nonsensical silliness, gibberish, jargon, and it's hysterical, of course. But them going through that entire process of her beating her head against the wall and him just not getting it. And she tries to take him through it slowly, and then she breaks it down into itty bitty bits, and it looks like he's going to get it, and then he just flies off the handle and just goes sideways. So just it's a hysterical lesson in what not to do in teaching or what not to do in learning. But it is really funny. If you haven't seen it, I did drop the link. There's a 4-minute cut down version of that episode. It's really funny. So when you get a chance, take a look because it cracks me up. I also like Friends. And then I mentioned that you may be wondering, why in the world is she talking about Friends and speaking French when we're supposed to be talking about learning styles? So what this has to do with you is when you get into a position you're in cybersecurity or in any kind of business, honestly, any job, you're going to have to learn new things and learn new skills. So this is how this is going to help you out. Just so you know, most of you know who I am. I did introduce myself, but just so you know about my background, I was a coach starting in college. So I do have 20 years of coaching. I have 14 years of experience teaching. I was a health and PE teacher. I taught in America, in Germany, and in Korea. And then after I destroyed one of my legs, I went into medical coding for 5 years. And at that point, I decided it was time for me to get into IT because I didn't know I was an IT nerd until I took a certain course in school for my health information technology degree. And then over on the right side, you can see that I've got some silly names to figure out who I am. I have a very curious mind. I like to ask a lot of questions. I was the kid who would take apart the phone to figure out how it worked and then tried to and failed to put it back together. In school, I wasn't a prankster, but I did love to engage in shenanigans because they're entertaining and fun. I'm always down for a good joke, a good giggle. I like to travel when I lived overseas, and I wish I could get back to that, but that's a whole long other story. And if you don't already know, I do have several chronic illnesses. Some of them have taught me a lot of lessons that I now have to use continually, and some of them are just, a pain, and we'll leave that alone where it is. But that's kind of who I am in a nutshell. And the benefit for tonight's talk is going to help you when you find yourself in that situation of either trying to teach or trying to learn, and it's just not sticking. You can't get your brain to get a handle on it, and it's not making sense. Or maybe you spent time trying to teach someone and you're explaining it the best way you can, and it's just not making that connection. The reason we're talking about learning styles is so that, one, it'll help you teach yourself, because I know a lot in IT and cybersecurity is self-taught. There's a lot of YouTube University, there's a lot of Udemy, however you say it. There's a lot of on your own, do it yourself learning styles or learning opportunities. And then on the flip side of that, you can be in Phoebe's position on the episode of Friends where she's actually trying to teach someone. So you can find yourself trying to train someone and you're trying to explain it to them. And it's like you understand the concept and you know how it works and you know how to explain it. But for reasons you don't understand, they are just not understanding. So the reason for tonight, the benefit of tonight is if you can understand better how you learn, and if you can understand better how different people learn, you can potentially adjust how you teach or how you present information for yourself so that you can grasp that information a lot better. So there are just a quick pause, because the mindset behind this is just because you got to 9 by doing 6 and 3, but I got to 9 by doing 7 and 2, or 5 and 4, or 8 and 1, or 9 ones. We all got to the same answer. So no matter how you get there, have respect for how other people think. And it helps just in the general, don't ever diss someone just because, well, how'd you do that? Or how'd you get that answer? That's stupid. That's so the wrong way to do that. Please don't ever engage in that, just because the way our minds work comes from all sorts of different influences. And personally, I find them more entertaining and fascinating to learn how in the world did you come up with the same answer when you did all of this and I just did this, or the reverse case scenario where I did all of this and you got there super fast and super quick. So just to kind of set your mental status right there. Now, as far as the basic learning styles, there are 4, and they're pretty simple, and they correlate with our 4 of our 5 senses. The visual, you want to see it. I need a picture. Can you show me? Can I see it? The auditory, can you say it again? I didn't hear that. Can you repeat that? Or I need to listen to it somehow. The read and write, obviously you're going to write it down. And if you're like Jerry likes to say, you getting gray in your beard or around the temples, I tend to make a better connection if I can write something down. Some people do that if they can just read it. And then the last one is kinesthetic or touch tactile. So they either need to touch, feel, can you give me a hard copy? Can you print it out for me? Or can I touch it somehow? Can I use my body to manipulate that information somehow? Those are the 4 basic learning styles. They're really, really simple. And it's literally at this point, my talk could end because you need to go and learn it for yourself, because what works for me is not necessarily going to be the same thing that's going to work for you. So using those 4, we can expand it a little bit. There are some graphs that'll expand it out into 9 learning styles. There are some that'll take it to a lot more than 9. There are some that only go to 5 or 6, but I found a chart that shows a total of 7 with a bonus little bubble. And I'm going to have to read, I don't like reading slides, but I'm going to have to read that one because the bubbles on this next slide are pretty small. But using those 4 as a basis, we can move into these 7. Thank you for that, Chris. So starting on what looks like the left side with verbal, the words are your strong point. You prefer to use words both in speech and in writing. So that's that. They're using audio and talking with it because you have to listen. And then there's visual. You prefer to use pictures, diagrams, images, and spatial understanding to help you learn, because that's how it makes more sense to you if you can see it. You need a picture. You need to be in the same space as the information is going to be used. So it makes a lot more sense to you. Auditory or musical, and I flip those around because it's primary auditory because you're listening, but people have turned it into musical because they are creative and talented. You prefer using sounds, music, or even rhythms to help you learn. And I don't know if you learned it, but at some point in my life, I learned a song for the states. I don't remember the whole song. We've all learned the alphabet song, the ABCs. That's a song. If you ever stop and think about it, it's a song to help us remember our letters. So some of you might do a lot better with that. So like people like Tyler Ramsby, who made the cybersecurity rap. I don't remember the name of it, but it's out there. There's a song when I was studying for the Security Plus, there's a song for the ports. There's actually 2 songs for the ports somewhere out in YouTube land. And before the talk tonight, I actually Googled cybersecurity rap and found a lot of very interesting results. I will post those over in my Discord under the learning styles because they look a little hilarious and I haven't heard them. But some people use music and they can take the information and put it into the form of a song for it to make more sense to them, or turn it into a rap, or turn it into a dance. I mean, literally anything. Actually, that would be for the next one. So physical kinesthetic is the next one. You use your hands, your body, and your sense of touch to help you learn. You might, what does that say? You might act things out. So kind of people like me who talk with their hands, can you give me a printout of that? Can you print that? Can I have a hard copy of that? Can I go stand in the space and figure out how that's going to work? So those people learn with their body. They learn by touching. They learn by doing with their hands, doing with their body, instead of just sitting and watching. And then back onto the left side, the logical mathematical learning. Lord, I need my glasses. Learning is easier for you if you use logic, reasoning, systems, and sequences. So instead of being creative and a little artsy about it and taking your supplies and just kind of going off and doing what you want to do, the logical mind wants it all in order. So I want step one, I want step two, I want step three, instead of here's your supplies and just go figure it out. So the logical, mathematical, they need kind of a process and a very, very conformative kind of a structured way to do that. For social, that's going to be a lot like us, the GRC Mafia, for the Thursday night meetup. That's like us in the morning when we meet with Jerry for the daily cyber threat brief. That's like, what's it, Slay Security Plus on Saturdays, when we all meet up in a big group to learn a thing. Anytime you're in a group, that's a social. So the socials, they like to learn new things as a part of a group. Explaining your understanding to a group helps you learn. And I don't know about you, but when I'm in a group, and we're going back and forth with thoughts and ideas, particularly with YouTube, and we're all having conversation in the chat. If we're talking about a concept, and for example, Slay Security and Jesse's on about something, and then people in the chat start mentioning, different ideas or different pieces of context, that will trigger an idea in my head. And next thing you know, I'm off on the research adventure trail trying to figure out what that is, because it's like, holy crap, I never even thought of that. So that's one that I enjoy personally. And then the next one you'll have is solitary. And if I remember right, I think Chris has claimed that one for himself, where he prefers to learn alone. So the solitary learner likes to work alone, like I just said. You use self-study and prefer your own, Lord glasses. You prefer your own company when learning. So it's, YouTube University, just all alone. You're not worried about going to do the group thing. I know he said he likes to do the books all by himself, and that's fine. If that works for him and it's going to really help his brain wrap around that information, that's perfect. But if that's not for you, then don't worry about that. And then the last one is combination, which most everyone is going to fall into this category. You're going to be, you might have one or two that are really strong, and then you're probably going to have another one or two that are like, oh yeah, that works for me too. I can do that. That works really, really well. So I chose those 7 because they're pretty broad, they're pretty basic, but they still follow the 4 basic ones: auditory, visual, tactile, and then the reading writing. So you know what? I just thought the musical or the reading writing, that could actually be a form of poetry. Anyway, next slide. So once you figure those out, it'll help you digest information a lot better. And once you get a good hold of what that is for you, what works really well for you, I'll actually go back and let you look at those. If you know that you like visual, then you're going to do everything you can to find any visual learning tool for the next skill that you have to learn for your job or for personal reasons, whatever. But the flip side of that is, once you understand this concept of how different people learn in different ways and it makes more sense, then you can maybe listen for keywords to say, you probably would do a little bit better if we put some music on, or maybe if we can turn this into a song for you, or maybe you should probably get a picture of this. I need to probably print out some images for you, because this is probably going to make a lot more sense for you. So once you find yourself in a position where you're teaching, if you listen to your students, then you can pick up on keywords to help you teach them a lot better, because you're listening to say, hey, I think this one's going to do a lot better with the touch, the tactile, and figuring out a hands-on project for them to do. How does that all relate to IT and cybersecurity? Well, unfortunately, GRC Mafia, as far as tactile, clipboards, graphs and charts, I don't know a whole lot after that. Maybe you guys can throw them in the chat, and I'll have to add those to my memory collection, because I can't think of a lot of hands-on. I know IT and cybersecurity in general, hands-on keyboard, home labs, doing all the things on the keyboard, but that's like the limit of it, because that's what we do. Like if you're working networking, you've got the hardware and the cords and all the cabinets and all the, everything to work with. So that's very, very tactile. But as far as the rest of us, the keyboard commandos there, that's kind of all we got. It's a little limited. But once you, like I said, once you figure out what works for you, you can tailor all this information that you need to learn to be better at your job, or at any job, or be better off the job for something completely different. And you can tailor that information and how you receive it. And you can also offer that to someone else if you notice that they're struggling. So that's all of that. And then what you'll be able to do, a tablet is technically tactile if you think about it. That is a good point, to a degree. This is going to be part of the, I mean, clearly it's a part of the presentation, but this is where you can go to learn what your learning style is, because I was pretty sure I knew what mine was and I was right. But the bonus is this one also gives you a Myers-Briggs adjacent personality to slap on top of your learning style, which is lovely. And so I'll show you what I learned about me. So I am a kinesthetic learner, which is why I was a PE teacher, on the court, running around, hitting a ball, throwing a ball, catching a ball or a puck or whatever. That was my jam. That's my groove. And my personality partner is an ISTP, introverted, sensing, thinking, perceiving. And you may wonder why an introverted person is a teacher. The thing with me is when I test introverted, I always test borderline extroverted. So I don't run like super, super introverted. I run right in the middle. I always have. I think maybe once I've jumped over to the extrovert side, but every other time I'm right on the border of introvert extrovert. So I sense, think, and perceive. And then I am a tactile, auditory, visual. So you give me a game to play and I got it. I'm down. But to be honest, I can audio visual just about anything. Give me a good video, a visual video that's actually not, if it's a lecture video, I might struggle a lot more with that. But if you give me an interactive, like a visually interactive, like movies back in the day, I could quote an entire movie. Like I used to be able to quote the entirety of Ace Ventura because of something about that audio visual really sticks in my head. There's a website that does little cooking videos called tasty.com, I think, on YouTube. And they would do like little 1-minute recipe videos. And I could do those pretty quick just from memory, because it's really easy for me to remember like that audio visually. The slide is pretty self-explanatory. Kinesthetic learners, we are physical. Auditory learners, we like to hear it. The visual, they do split that into two. The visual linguistic, that's speaking. So lectures and talking and all the things. If it's visual spatial, imagine yourself in a room trying to suss it out. So for example, if I'm a volleyball coach or a volleyball player, and I'm on the court and I'm trying to judge how hard do I need to hit the ball to serve it over the net and hit the very back line and keep it in bounds without it going out of bounds. That's that spatial element. So I need to be able to see it to judge, things like that. That's kind of what that means. And then the next part of the results from this test I took was the optimal learning situations for me with that information from the previous slide. Personally, I enjoy practical material in a situation that I can use it. So if you give me tools, then make sure you give me a practice situation where the tools work. Don't give me something that's going to be completely unrelated, because I won't do very well with that situation. I'll have to make something up on my own. Lots of good examples that I can use. Repetition is really big for me. Something that gives me a lot of time to work it out so that I don't feel rushed and I don't feel pressured. And then study and presentation, things that are reviewable that I can go over again when I want to. And then for people who test as an ISTP, I struggle personally with hypotheticals. It's like, give me something I can use. Give me a practical. So don't give me, back in the 1800s, we had an idea, and don't give me something like that. Give me something that I can actually do, actually use, like right now, not 2,500 years ago. And then the last one is really heavy focus on problems with little emphasis on solving them. There is a great song about solving problems from way back in the day. If you know, you know. But don't present a problem that's just going to be the problem, because what I'm going to want to do as an ISTP is I'm going to want to figure out a way to fix it. So, thanks Vanilla Ice for that tip. Anyway, so that's actually the end of the learning lessons, the learning styles. So it's based on 4. You can expand that to however many you want. You are more likely more than one of them, most likely more than one. One's going to probably be your dominant, like audio or visual or writing or whatever. And then you're going to have a combo of a few more. So I do recommend that you learn what that is for you. I also recommend that you learn to recognize that in other people, because anytime you're in a position to teach, whether it's your own kids, other people's kids, peers, subordinates, what are the people above? Whatever they're called, people above you that you need to teach. Like I had to teach my director recently some information about IT because she has no idea. And it was something that I knew. but I had to explain it to her in a way that she understood. So make sure you catch the keywords and those key points about each of those, because that way you can also recognize a learning style in someone else. And also, please, 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 as a teacher, never, 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 ever, ever dog someone or diss someone or berate or insult someone for how they learn, because everyone's brain works a little bit different. And the other thing about learning styles is, sadly, they're not really taught in curriculum. Like, as for students, they're really kind of taught to teachers so that we can kind of teach like a class of different levels, kind of like, the old school aerobics class. You had the teacher doing like the mainstream moves, and then you had Hyper Harold over here doing the big over the top extra hard version of it. And then you had Martha over here doing the low key version, so that everyone had a different level to work with. So when your learning style is kind of a little bit like that, so if you can figure out how to get that style just for the right people, it'll help them kind of grasp the information a little bit better. One thing is I'm sad, I was hoping to find some like statistics to say that learning your way will help you learn better, like percentage wise, but I wasn't able to find anything like that, but it does make it a little easier. So second part of my talk is about wellness. So disclaimer, I am not a physician. I am not a licensed therapist. I am not a parent. I am a retired teacher and all the things I said earlier. So these really based on my observations, my experiences, things I've learned from my friends and people that I know. I do know a licensed therapist. I do know some people who are physicians. So some of it's pulled from them, some of it's pulled from life experiences, both mine and from friends of mine. And this is just stuff that I kind of put together for myself within the Discord channel. And then once I got interested into cybersecurity and started listening to people like Neil Bridges and Gerald Auger and Derek, I can't think of his last name right now, and all these other different people. I've heard Josh Mason talk about it a bit. I've heard a few people talk about burnout a lot in cybersecurity. And I was like, okay, so cybersecurity sounds awesome, but why would I want to go into it if I'm just going to, get burned out? That kind of sucks. So I put all this together, and this is really the whole, if it vibes with you, take it. And if it doesn't, please just pretend you're Dory and keep on scrolling. If you're in the Discord, if it doesn't work for you, then just leave it at that's fine. It might work for some other people. I've looked around and decided on the 7 pillars of self-care for wellness. So your mental, that's the obvious one, your emotional health, your physical health, and for environmental health, that one in the middle, it doesn't just mean the planet, because that is important, but that also means your home, your house, your room. Where do you live? How is your environment there cluttered? Is it kind of icky and it bugs you because, oh God, it's so gross, it's so dirty? Or, oh, I need, that one pile in the corner, or that one drawer that we all have that's full of everything. How is your home environment? Is that okay? Your environment in your car, because that's important. You spend time there driving sometimes. And then also your environment at work, where you work, your station, your cubicle, your office, your whatever it is, you report to the place, and where you sit down at your computer and do your thing. What is that like? And also, in a grander scale, your office, your company, what is that like? So it's not just the planet, it's also your personal environment. And then spiritual health, your recreational health, and then your social health. So those are kind of the 7 things I focused on in this section of the Discord. And really, the channel that all of this information is located in, it's just a lot of just my own thoughts and tips that I've found and things that I've heard. I find a lot of memes with sometimes famous people, and I always want people to ignore the face. Like, you might find a really great quote with a Johnny Depp or a Denzel Washington face. Please, Lord, ignore the face and read the words, and then sometimes read the words again, because there's usually a really good message there. So the other one next to it, the 6 best doctors I found, is Sunshine. Not me. I found this meme. And on the meme, we're talking about sunshine, just get out into nature. Like Eric Taylor likes to say, go touch some grass, get out in nature and go do something outside. So get out of your house a little bit. Drink some water, stay hydrated, particularly those of you in the thin air of Denver being a mile high. It is very dry and it's also desert. Rest. One thing I find that we don't do very well as a whole, as a country, is we don't rest. The American dream requires a lot of work and we work hard, like really, really hard, to the point where if we rest, we generally tend to feel guilty. So rest is important. And by air, it's really just breathing and being very present in your breath and your breathing and making sure that you're taking in enough, but it's a mental exercise there. And then fitness, the exercise element. And then for diet, it's not going on a diet. It is the diet you choose on a regular basis, what you choose to shove in your face every day to sustain your body. So what do you choose to eat? Do you eat all the processed everything on the planet? Do you eat all of the animals? I mean, literally just carnivore, everything, all of it. I want every single meat you've got in the shop on the pizza. Do it. Or are you plant-based? And it's not, there's no judgment. It's just, what do you choose to eat? How is your diet? Do you want to adjust it? That's fine if you do. And if that's fine if you don't, but just be mindful of your diet. The rest of this goes into general phrases that mean a little bit to me as far as wellness goes. I have the advantage, like some of you might, of yes, Flakinator, 15 pounds of candy a day is not, you probably need a new doctor, bro. Work-life balance has become a buzz phrase. It's a flaming hot phrase here in America, but I've had the advantage of living in a couple of different countries. And let me tell you, like I said earlier, that American dream where we put our heads down and we just get to the grindstone and we work hard, 40, 50, 60, 80 plus hours a week. There is, in my opinion, there's no work-life balance, or we're really, really not awesome at work-life balance. And some people might not agree with me, and that's okay. That's completely fine. But I don't think America's very good at it. I think we have a long way to go to get to a consensus as a country. Some of us are great at it. Some states are great at it. Some companies are great at it. Some individuals are great at it. But us as a country, as a whole, we're not very good at that. We live for the weekend, and I would prefer to have a job that I enjoy so that the weekend comes just like, oh, that's great. And not just, oh my God, I can't wait till Friday. That kind of a stress, it takes a toll. The can't pour from an empty pitcher, that lesson you learn on the plane, if you've been on an airplane, because some people haven't. If there's an emergency, put your mask on first, and then you go take care of other people. You can't help people when you're completely depleted. So please find a way to take care of yourself. And that way you can help your friends, your loved ones, extended family, all the things. The rest of those, there's a lot of mental focus in those last ones, the taking care of, the preventing burnout, the managing stress, the overthinking, the exhaustion and the anxiety. There's a lot of mental that goes into everything we do. And if we're not mindful of that, if we don't manage our thoughts, we can spiral the wrong direction quickly. And if we don't have any practice at controlling it, it can get bad really quick. So one is to be mindful of our thoughts and to manage our thoughts. And I know, just be positive. Yes, but it does take some practice, because you can't just be positive. You have to kind of learn how to do it. Also, the stress and the overthinking, exhaustion and anxiety, all that mental, it does take a physiological toll on your body. It will actually show up as a physical problem if you don't check it quickly. So one thing I've had to learn I do have rheumatoid arthritis. And when I first got diagnosed, as I was researching, I learned that a lot of people have food triggers. I do have some, but my main triggers are stress triggers. So for example, I can get really angry and upset about something, and if it gets to a certain degree of me being irritated, I can trigger a flare. On the flip side, if I get exceedingly happy about something, I have in the past triggered a flare. For example, I have a former student who is sadly in prison. And he just recently got the news that he's going to be released on probation, which is awesome. That is a long story that I can tell you, like, not on a live stream if you like, but he finally got his parole granted, and it triggered a flare because I was over the moon ecstatic for him. I've been writing to him for decades now, but I was so excited that I triggered a flare. So I have to be very mindful of how I manage my thoughts and how I allow certain things to affect, because if I'm not careful, I'm in trouble. As far as the comments on the right, you need to be important. You need to make yourself a priority. I know a lot of us, we're parents, we put our kids first, we put our partners first, we put other people first, but that always puts us somewhere down the line. And you still need to make yourself a priority. You still need to take care of yourself. It is an important thing. I would hope we wouldn't become like really selfish and no, I'm a priority. No, I can't. Not the selfish, haughty, pompous. Nobody wants to be that person, but it is important for you to take care of yourself. So regardless if it's mental, physical, emotional, diet, exercise, food, environmental, whatever it is, you do need to be a priority for yourself. Part of that is learning how to set healthy boundaries. So if you don't know how to do that, that's a good thing to learn and to start practicing. I learned about it about 100,000 years ago. I'm about 800,000 years old. I learned about it a while back, and I'm still not good at it, but I know how, but I still need a lot more practice. The reflect on your performance part, as far as stress and wellness goes, raise your hand if you are your own worst critic. I know a lot of us are, and yes, we screw up. And yes, we have moments where we are the embodiment of Carl from the morning show. However, you need to understand that you also do a lot of good. So despite your mistakes, because there are your mistakes, I have mistakes, lots and lots of them. We all still do a lot of good too. So whenever you stop and reflect on your performance, please, please, please be objective. Yeah, I screwed that up, but you know what? Over the course of amount of time, I've actually done a lot of great stuff. So I do need to work on these. Yes, I do need to work on these, but I've also done a really good job on these. So please do that, because when you spin out on the negative side, it makes it really, really, really hard to manage your thoughts. It makes it really hard because you're already in a negative headspace and you're already thinking, well, damn, I suck. Or whatever your version of that statement is, you're already in a negative mental space, a headspace. So please be fair to yourself. Remember your accomplishments, remember your talents, remember your skills, as much as you remember your mistakes and your errors and your missteps. Exploring new hobbies. I have a section in my Discord that has an entire list and maybe a link of new things to try. So whether you're musical, you like to draw, take photos, do sports, cook, knit, crochet, I don't know, video game. But one thing to help with the stress and the exhaustion and the burnout is to do some non-cybersecurity things. If you're taking a course, like you need to, or for a cert or anything, or any reason, that's fine. But find something that you enjoy doing: writing poetry, reading books, going to the beach, body surfing, racing cars, flying kites, parasailing, I don't know, hiking a mountain, yoga class, never mind, I won't say that last one. But find something that you love to do and do that. If it's with a family, with your friends, by yourself, doesn't matter, with your puppy, with your other whatever animals you might have, find something non-cybersecurity to do for fun, for relaxing, preferably an activity, because we do sit a lot during the day, but that's completely up to you. Set personal boundaries. Like I said, that kind of helps with the making you a priority, with some balance in your life, period, not just work life. Setting healthy boundaries, not just, no to everything, but set healthy personal boundaries. I've had to personally do that with, sadly, PBO. Tuesday nights, I might jump in the chat. Hey, you guys, happy Tuesday. I just wanted to say hi, but I'm 400,000 years old and I got to go to bed because I need to go to sleep. Or I might be having a flare. It's like, I can't hang out because I'm sick today. So that's a boundary. Oh no, you got to stay and watch. No, I really can't. I need to take care of myself. I need to go to bed. I need to go take my medicine because I'm having a flare. I need to go lay down. So that's when you see that, that's me using a boundary. It's more just to keep myself under control too, because I'll stay up till 3 a.m. and then I'm in a lot of trouble. As far as the iterate and adapt, just go with the flow and change. I mean, we're all going to have to change something at some point. We have to learn, we have to grow, we have to let go of old habits, we have to take on new habits. So be the water that flows around the rock and roll with it, baby, roll. All right. I think I'm close to being finished. In the image, please pause when you are on low, not when you are out of juice. Take a step back. If you need to find like professional help, that's fine. If you need to be put on medication, that is also fine. If you just need to talk to a friend, do that. That's fine. But if you start feeling yourself going from green to yellow and you can feel that your energy, your joy, your love for life and things, if you feel that ebbing away and it's slowly leaking away and leaking out of you, take a hard pause and figure out a way to fix that. It's like a slow leak on your tire. Because at some point you're going to be completely flat and you don't want that, and that rhyme. So talk to people that you trust and love. Talk to a professional if you need to, which, like I said, is perfectly fine. And you try to catch it when you feel it happening, and try not to wait until it hits the red zone and you're totally tapped out. I remember when I first started listening to Jerry in the morning, in May or March of 2023, I remember sometime that summer, he was on screen and was just like, you guys, I tell you what, I'm tapped out. I'm exhausted. I'm burnt out. And it's like, bro, look at all the work you do. No wonder. And I remember him being really real about that. And it's just like, he's like, I'm going to have to take some time off. And, us as the community, we're like, no, we love having you on screen. But at the same time, it's like, no. We love having you on screen, but you really need to take care of yourself. So you go do you take care of that, and we'll do the thing, and you just go do you. Please take care of yourself before you hit the floor face first and you're completely tapped out. And then I think probably the last part is whatever works for me may or may not work for you. I might love to just literally stay in my bed, and that might not be the thing for you. I might love a movie marathon, and that's a really de-stressing activity for me, and that might not work for you. You may love racing motorcycles. That's not going to do it for me, although it probably would. You might love jumping out of airplanes. You might love knitting. You might love going to the opera. You might love going to a wrestling match. You might love any number of things that will help you enjoy yourself, de-stress, have fun, just kick your feet up and have a good time. And some of those might work for me. Some of them might not. I might prefer a rave party downtown. You might not like that. You might prefer climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. I mean, literally, it could be anything. So please figure out what works well for you to keep yourself restored, to keep your battery full, to keep your life enjoyable, to have fun, to relax. We do work hard, but one thing I noticed when I lived in Germany is Germans work really hard, but they play hard. They literally, at the very least, the Germans I worked with, they would literally find any reason to have a party and drink beer. You got a promotion? Let's go have a beer. You got engaged? That's a big deal. You finished your project? Let's go have a beer and have a little party with a pizza or something. You were able to learn how to drive today? Let's go have a beer. They play hard, but they work hard, but they play hard. We need to learn a little bit more how to play harder and maybe work just a teensy bit less. But us being in cybersecurity, I don't know if that's going to actually be possible. So anyway, that is going to be everything I have for you. I could go on, but I really won't. I did put, yes, Flakinator, I finished a beer. Let's have a beer. And the funny part is I've actually done that. I've had someone say that when I was there for Stammtisch. If you want, there is my email and my website. And I was telling Chris and B-Dubs earlier before the stream is the reason I put the happy laughy face next to Space Tacos is because Space Tacos, if you convert it to letters, numbers, makes a perfect 10-digit phone number. I was going to put a fake phone number up there. And then I thought, no, what if it's not fake? So I just, put my name.